Alright, hello everyone. I am making this video about Arena Direct with the HOB set. So this past week we had the event running on Arena and it was so popular that it was removed 3 days before scheduled. I think that's because they ran out of product. So after everything was finished, I ended up having the most collector booster boxes out of everyone, so far as I know. And I'm making this video to show you how I did it. There's an event next week, which is about play boosters, and maybe you can implement some of the things I'm gonna show here for that one as well. Okay, so Hobbit Direct Grind. Usually when they have these events, it happens during the Pro Tour week, so I usually don't get to play them, the ones with the collector box. But this time, I could completely focus on this, and I guess it worked out. So I spent around 2,800 euros and averaged about 11 hours per day of play. And the reason I would play more per day, but I thought the later it gets into the day, the worse I play. So maybe I could save the time and also like save my mental at the same time, because playing that much for like 7 days straight was very, very exhausting. Okay. So this format is very simple and some people say bad. I'm not sure I quite agree. I think it was fun because the games were fast. But it didn't have much creativity really. You couldn't really do much with your sealed pool, I think, compared to other formats. And the aggro decks were just too good. Like the black was so powerful. So my approach was a little different than trying to do well in a single tournament. My approach was, I want to have very efficient time grinding this, so I'm gonna sacrifice a little bit of win rate so I can have fast games and get to my good pools faster. So for a slow multicolor deck, you need everything to go your way. So you need a lot of bombs, you need fixing, and you need chip removal, because you're always going to be fighting against aggressive decks. So you need to keep the board clean. The medium black red deck, on the other hand, like, it doesn't need any bombs. You can just build with commons and uncommons. Black is really the only color that doesn't have to open rares and mythics to be good. Red kind of the same, but it's more that it fits better with black. I had 110 runs. I spent 2,800 euros and I trophied 19 times. Okay, let's talk about the colors. So first we have the black color. It's by far the best color. It has the best commons and uncommons. It can answer everything. Like it fits with everything. Red is the second best, not just by power level, but also when everybody's playing black, like the red cards seem to be pair well against it and also with it. So green, for example, has a lot of big threats that just die to black with like a 1 mana removal sometimes. So it's not just that red has better cards, it's also that red plays better against black rather than green, which has fine cards, but it's just too slow sometimes. White has the weakest commons and uncommons, but it has some really good bombs. So sometimes you end up like in this bore of bombs deck. And blue has okay, it has some okay commons, but it doesn't have a lot of bombs you can open. So you can splash a few things, but the decks to build with blue, I think, are very hard. Okay, so I use the stats a lot. I use 70 lands a lot to figure out what cards I want to play, and sometimes the stats aren't indicative. For example, we have the Great Gilded Boat. That's a really good card to splash. However, you have to do it in a specific way. If you have Old Thras, it's an excellent way to play the boat, because you can just get your island and then play the boat, and then the thrust can be blocked, so you get to recruit every turn. But if you go with a Thrower's Map to play the boat, then you're just wasted 2 turns to do nothing on board. So even if you can start attacking next turn for the recruit, you're likely losing the race and you're just dying. So even though you use the stats a lot, remember to try to make sense of why a card is good and bad. These are all the cards that I am willing to splash, and anything off the list, like it's not forbidden, but it has like very like specific conditions to be met, and they usually don't work out. So I'm gonna put this link with the splashable cards on the video. Okay, so building your deck. It's gonna be 3 simple steps. Try to do everything very efficiently and fast. So first, you sort by rarity. You see what cards you really want to play, and then you have another column of the cards you kind of want to play. That will be stuff like removal or uncommons that are good. And then you look at your fixing. Your fixing will inform you how many of the rares you can utilize if you're allowed to play a third color at all. And then after you make the deck, you just think about the plan. Like, what is my deck doing? What's your win condition? Do you have enough removal? Do you need removal? Some decks need removal more than others. Is your curve okay in this format? Because it's very fast. I think not playing a 2-drop is like a huge liability of a deck. So your curve is gonna look like very packed on 2 quite often, and then less on 3, and then less on 4, and then like 1 or 2 5s. That's very common. And most decks actually just need to push damage, and there's only a few decks that can play the long game. And we usually don't build those because they're probably for other sealed formats. And then the other thing is like, what does your deck do without your bombs? What if you don't draw your bombs? Is the curve still strong enough? Can it withstand an opponent pressure? So we're gonna build 2 pools and see if everything kind of works. Alright, so building your sealed deck. Step 1, let's sort by rarity and find out what cards we really want to play. Okay, so these are the 5 cards you really want to play. These cards are above 60% win rate. They're pretty good. And then you have the cards you kind of want to play. This will help advise your decision. Okay, so this is what we have based on power level. And now for the second step, we're gonna see what are we able to play. So we sort by color, and we try to look at our fixing. How much fixing do we have? We have a bunch of duels, mostly in colors that we're not likely to play because we have nothing on blue. And then we have 2 Hobbit holes, and we have this for our guy, and we have Grey Dog and Old Thras. So a splash seems to be very doable. So the first idea I get is I should probably be white-red, because it's a 2-drop, right? So you have to, you can't splash this. This has to be the base of the deck. And then I'm gonna splash this for blue. This is quite often like splashing blue. This happens a lot. Yeah, also like white and red. Like I see a bunch of cards I kind of want to play, and also red seems okay here. So let's try building that deck for starters, and then we're gonna try the green deck, and let's see what works. Okay, so. Okay, so this is what your deck is gonna end up looking like. You probably need 6 plains, 6 mountains, and 1 island to complete this. I'm gonna play 17 lands for a number of reasons, even though my curve is not very high. I'm gonna play 17 lands because there's some deck thinning. This is a utility land, so you don't really flood with this, you just make 2/2s. And we're also 3-color, so I kind of want to have more ways to never like get color screwed. And about this card, it seems to be like very easy to splash, as we have Grey Dog, we have the Dory, they make treasures, we have the fetches here, we have the Old Thras, and the Lake Town. Maybe you don't even have to play Old Thras, but I think you should. I think it kind of works well with some of the equipments, and I guess the pumps. Yeah, Thras is good in this deck. Okay, so this is our deck number 1. Let's take a screenshot, and then let's look at what we have for green. Okay, now let's try to build the work deck. The large bear is easy to include in this deck, no matter what color we're gonna choose. It's gonna be between the June colors. Black seems very thin, so I think it's gonna be the splash color, and we have enough ways to do that. Like our fixing is excellent. Maybe we even play this one. And you don't want to be base black. I think you want to be base red because you have the removal. And I guess some 4-drops to combine with the quarrels, like some high power creatures that can make this removal be real. And we also have like 2-drops in green, so I think that's gonna end up working. And you can even play Smoke. It's not like a very good card, but we're splashing anyway. And it's like high enough mana that we're gonna have our black by then, I think. Okay, let's try this. There's also the Nurturer. Usually, you want to play this card with Stone-Voiced Goblins or the Blade that makes opponent sacrifice a creature, which we don't have in this pool. Maybe that's why black is not very good. But now in this deck, it doesn't fit the curve very much. Maybe you can play 1 instead of the Old Thras, something like this. Like this is not great in our deck because we do need the high power to make this removal work. We don't have a lot of equipment to make it good. Our fixing is already excellent. Like we don't need to play this. I'd rather have the Grey Dog because it ramps us into 5 kind of easy. So yeah, that's the second deck. we can play. And now, okay, so now that you have both of your decks, let's decide between them. Let's check for a few things. Let's see if the curve is okay, it looks okay for both. Let's check if there is enough removal and if you need removal. So this deck, it does have 2 removal here. It doesn't have any other removal, but it actually doesn't need that many because it can push damage and it can use equipment to outscale your opponent's creatures, and it can also just go wide. So even though it doesn't have removal, it's a fast deck, so you don't need to contest everything. You can just push damage and kill them. While this deck, I think it might be a little slower. It might be like if your opponent removes a creature, it seems like it slows you down a lot more. So you probably need more removal. And you do have the Quarrel, which is situational, but some of the cards here, they're not very good on their own, like the Miracle Nurturer, like these cards. So even though this has better fixing and more removal, I rather have this deck because the plan and the win condition seems more easily reachable even without drawing your bombs. You can probably just curve with Dane's Company to mount and gain return, and that's probably a really strong borrowed presence. Okay, so this is another pool example. First, we're gonna sort by rarity and try to make a column of the cards we really want to play. So these 3 cards, the ones you really want to play, and then you have the cards you kind of want to play. It's gonna look something like this, and then you have the Crude Blade and the Pine Constraint removal. This is how it looks like. So clearly white and black are our best 2 colors. Yeah, that like this kind of confirms it. And now we're gonna look at our fixing, if we are able to do anything. So we don't have any fixing. We only have this possibly if we decide to play white red splash black, or white or red black splash white. Okay, first let's try to build the red white deck. Okay, so this is how the white-red deck ends up looking like. It does maximize the rares a lot, so Killy and Philly, but the rest of the cards are not very strong, like you're playing some questionable cards. Overall, this is a solid deck. Let's try to do the white-black deck. Okay, and this is how our white-black deck ends up looking like. I think it's gonna be a 16 land deck. I think the curve is like relatively low and there's not a lot of color requirements, like everything is super easy to cast. So it's gonna be 8 and 8 cards. So I like this deck more because of down to coupling down. Like it seems like it's able to disrupt the opponent from doing their best thing, and then your second best thing gets there, even though like you don't have many dwarves for Philly, and you don't have many equipment for Killy. I think with the ferocious plan works as well. So I can see this doing well even when you don't draw your bombs. And it has many ways to disrupt your opponent and high card quality. So I prefer this over the synergistic white-red deck that maximize their bombs more. So after playing the direct, because of how much the gameplay revolved around crude bent plate, some cards ended up being better than we thought. I think those cards are Goblin Town Flunkies. I used to not play this card because it's not very strong, but it ends up being so good against the bent plate. And Glowing the Mighty, the reason is like 1/1s, like the Flunkies and the discard rat, they end up being good. So there's a lot of 1 toughness creatures you gotta kill, and the easy pickings effect ends up being just good sometimes. The other card that I think was better than originally is the long-bodied Grey Dog. That card just enables a lot of your splashing or effects like Stirrup, where you can sacrifice the treasure, and I just end up playing a lot more often than it looks. Also, like you can, when your opponent's holding obvious removal, you can just pass with the Grey Dog and play it on the end step and then have a powerful turn. Okay, so to sum up, the format is very fast, very aggressive. Probably you have a curve of that's very low with a lot of 2-drops, and almost every deck is trying to push damage. Most pools don't have enough tools to make the multicolor slow decks work. If you don't have enough fixing, or you don't have enough bombs, or you're just not doing anything in the early game, you should probably avoid playing those decks and just play a black-based deck. Usually black-red is the easiest one you can make without any bombs, and just be done with it. Use the stats to find out how to build your deck, especially like the first, let's say like 18-20 playables. Just use stats to find out which they are, and then fill the missing pieces based on what your deck is trying to do. For example, like the dwarves deck might need equipment. Maybe the green-black deck might need like 4 power creatures to trigger the ferocious. Maybe your black deck black-red deck needs like treasures to sacrifice. So stats are useful, but you need to think about what my deck is doing. And then when you get into the pool, sort by rarity, look at your fixing, and then after you complete the deck, look at your plan. Ask yourself what we're trying to do. Alright, so that will be all for me. Don't get mugged.